He entered the restaurant after a full day in the fields, sweaty with hands dirty from soil, and was thrown out like trash. Nobody cared who he was, but the next day he came back, and what he did right at the entrance left everyone in shock. Subscribe to our channel now and see how a simple farmer taught that manager the greatest lesson about respect he'll never forget. The light rain persisted over the soybean fields of Riverdale Springs, a small town in rural Missouri. Thomas Jenkins observed the gray sky while adjusting his weathered straw hat. At 45, his sun-marked face and calloused hands told the story of a life dedicated to the land. It was the last day of harvest, and despite the drizzle, tractors were already rumbling in the distance. "This crop will feed a lot of people, Bill," Thomas commented to his foreman, a thin man with a serene gaze, who had worked alongside him for more than 2 decades. "God willing, boss. You deserve it after all this work." Thomas smiled discreetly. He had never been one for ostentation, despite owning one of the largest properties in the region. He preferred to walk among the workers, wearing the same simple clothes, the same muddy boots. To those who didn't know him, he was just another farmhand at Hope Farm. After supervising the end of the harvest, Thomas decided to go into town. He was hungry and remembered the Mountain Flavor, a restaurant that served home-style food, the kind that reminded him of lunches prepared by his late mother. He drove his old pickup truck along dirt roads, now transformed into muddy paths by the rain. Riverdale Springs was a town in transformation. In recent years, economic growth had attracted new residents, businessmen, and investors who were trying to give a more cosmopolitan air to the old village. The Mountain Flavor, once an unpretentious family restaurant, had recently been sold to a business group from Kansas City that promised to elevate the standard of the establishment. Thomas parked in front of the restaurant, not bothering to clean his boots or change his shirt stained with sweat and soil. He entered the establishment, as he had done for the past 20 years, expecting only a hot meal after a long day's work. The interior of the Mountain Flavor was unrecognizable. The old wooden tables had been replaced by modern furniture, and the walls, once decorated with photos of the region, now displayed abstract paintings. The waiters, previously known by name, now wore impeccable uniforms and robotic expressions. As soon as Thomas walked through the door, suspicious glances multiplied. Well-dressed customers paused their conversations to observe the mud-covered man who had just entered. An elderly lady with grey hair and aristocratic posture discreetly brought a handkerchief to her nose. Richard Anderson, the new manager, a man in his 30s with meticulously combed hair and a perfectly ironed shirt, quickly approached. With a forced smile and a low but cutting voice, he addressed Thomas. "Excuse me, sir. I'm afraid we have a problem. This establishment now has a dress code. We cannot serve people in this state." His eyes scanned Thomas from head to toe with evident disgust. "Dress code? I've been coming here for 20 years, young man," Thomas replied, confused. "Things have changed. Riverdale Springs is modernizing, and the Mountain Flavor is too. This is not a place for country folk, understand? You'll frighten the other customers." The restaurant fell into an awkward silence. All eyes were fixed on the scene. Thomas felt his stomach turn, not from hunger, but from indignation. He looked around and didn't recognize a single face. Where were the old regulars? The workers who, like him, came to enjoy a good meal after a day of honest work? For a few seconds, Thomas remained silent, just staring at Richard. He didn't respond. He simply turned and left, with a lump in his throat and an empty stomach. As he walked to his truck, he heard muffled laughter from a table near the window. On his way home, he stopped at Celeste's small grocery store run by an African-American woman in her 70s who maintained the only business that had resisted the recent modernization of the town. "Thomas, it's been a while. How's the harvest?" she asked with genuine interest. "We finished today, Miss Eleanor. Thank God it was good." The lady noticed something different in the usually serene farmer's countenance. "Did something happen, son? You look downcast." Thomas told her what had occurred at the restaurant. Eleanor shook her head, indignant. "This has been happening a lot around here. The old-timers are being pushed out to make way for the modern folk. Last week, Mr. Anthony, the shoemaker, closed his shop, He couldn't handle the pressure from the new mall. As they talked, Sandra Hayes, the town's only lawyer, entered the grocery store. A strong and determined African-American woman of about 40, Sandra was known for defending lost causes and fighting for the rights of the humble. "I couldn't help overhearing what happened, Thomas. That's pure discrimination. You could sue the restaurant, you know." Thomas shook his head. "I don't want trouble, counselor. I just wanted a meal." Sandra observed him for a few moments before asking, "Did you know that the Mountain Flavor is for sale again? The Kansas City group didn't get the expected return and is quietly getting rid of it." Something awakened in Thomas's gaze. An idea was beginning to form in his mind. "How much are they asking, counselor?" Sandra smiled. "Less than it's worth, for sure. They're desperate to leave before the rainy season drives away the tourists." That night, Thomas couldn't sleep. He stared at the wooden ceiling of his simple house, built by his own father decades ago. In the room next door, his daughter Emily, 22, recently graduated in culinary arts, slept peacefully. She had returned from Chicago just a week ago after completing her course at the country's best culinary school. Emily was Thomas's pride. She had grown up without a mother. Laura had passed away when the girl was only 5, but never lacked love and dedication. Thomas had done the impossible to ensure she received the best education, even if it meant tightening his belt and working twice as hard. The next morning, Thomas woke up determined. After breakfast, he told Emily his idea, who listened with eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Dad, that's perfect. I just graduated and was thinking about how to start my career. We can transform the Mountain Flavor into something special again." At 10 o'clock, Thomas and Sandra entered the office of the real estate agent responsible for selling the restaurant. By 11 o'clock, he was already signing the first documents for the acquisition. What few people knew in Riverdale Springs was that despite his simple appearance and modest lifestyle, Thomas Jenkins was a man of considerable wealth. Hope Farm was just one of his properties, and years of hard work and smart investments had made him one of the richest men in the region, though no one suspected. At 11:15 the same day, Thomas, still wearing the same worn shirt from the previous day, entered the Mountain Flavor again, this time accompanied by Sandra. The restaurant had opened promptly at 11, and Richard, the manager, was attending to the first customers of the day. When he saw Thomas, Richard frowned and approached quickly, visibly irritated. "Didn't you understand what I said yesterday? This place is not for—" "I think you're the one who doesn't understand," interrupted Sandra, extending a folder with documents. "Mr. Jenkins is the new owner of the Mountain Flavor. The transfer has just been finalized." Richard's face instantly turned pale. He looked at Thomas, then at the papers, then back at Thomas, looking for some sign that this was a bad joke. This can't be true," he stammered. "It is true," confirmed Thomas, with a calmness that contrasted with the manager's nervousness. "And you're dismissed." The news spread quickly through Riverdale Springs. In Eleanor's small market, at Mr. Joe's barbershop in the fields around town, everyone was talking about the same thing. Thomas Jenkins, the farmer many judged to be just another rural worker, had bought the Mountain Flavor and fired the arrogant manager who had humiliated him. "He's always been like that, discreet," Eleanor commented to her customers. "He has money but never made a point of showing it, unlike these newcomers who want to transform our town into a place we no longer recognize." Emily, Thomas's daughter, immediately took over the restaurant's kitchen. Trained in culinary arts, the 22-year-old had innovative ideas but maintained a deep respect for the traditional Missouri cooking she had learned from her paternal grandmother. "I want to honor our culture, Dad," she said as they planned the reopening. "Use local ingredients, value the region's producers, show that we can be modern without losing our roots." The restaurant remained closed for 2 weeks for a complete overhaul. Thomas made sure to hire only local workers for the renovations. The sophisticated tables gave way to sets made from reclaimed wood, crafted by carpenters from the region. The walls once again displayed historical photographs of Riverdale Springs, showing the faces and hands of those who built the town. On the day of the reopening, a line formed at the door. They were mostly simple people, farmers, teachers from the municipal school, small business owners, curious to see the transformation. But some members of the local elite were also present, including Edward Mitchell, owner of the largest supermarket in town and Richard's uncle, the fired manager. "Welcome, everyone," announced Thomas, standing at the entrance of the restaurant. He wore a clean but simple shirt, and his hands still showed the calluses from decades of working the land. The Mountain Flavor has always been a place for everyone, and it will continue to be. It doesn't matter if you come straight from the fields or from an air-conditioned office. What matters is that here you will be treated with the same respect. The new rules of the establishment were displayed on a rustic board right at the entrance. Farm workers, laborers, and day workers have priority service, 20% discount for those with calluses on their hands. We are proud to serve those who build this country with the sweat of their brow. Edward Mitchell read the sign with barely disguised contempt. "This is ridiculous," he commented loudly to the friends accompanying him. "They're going to turn this place into a cafeteria for farmhands." Thomas, who was passing nearby at that moment, heard the comment and approached with a serene smile. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm glad you came. Your nephew told me a lot about you." He paused significantly before continuing. "I hope you enjoy our food. It was prepared with the same care we dedicate to all customers, regardless of their social position." The polite but firm response left Edward speechless. He limited himself to a nod before heading to a remote table with his companions. In the days that followed, the restaurant not only recovered its old clientele but attracted new patrons. Emily's food was the talk of the town. Traditional Missouri dishes with contemporary touches, fresh ingredients supplied by local producers, fair prices. The Mountain Flavor was quickly becoming a success. But not everything was roses. Patios, a rainy morning, Sandra appeared at the restaurant with a worried expression. "Thomas, we received a notification. Richard is filing a labor lawsuit against you, claiming moral damages for the way he was fired." Thomas sighed, placing his coffee cup on the table. That was to be expected. His uncle wouldn't let it go. "There's more," continued Sandra. "Some of the old suppliers are cancelling contracts. It seems Edward is pressuring them not to do business with you." Emily, who was listening to the conversation, intervened. "That's not a problem, Ms. Hayes. We're already buying almost everything, directly from small producers." "It's even better this way." Thomas smiled, proud of his daughter. "And what about the labor lawsuit?" "We'll face it," Sandra replied with determination. "We have witnesses to his behavior with you that day, and dismissal for just cause doesn't constitute moral damage when there's proven inappropriate behavior." In the weeks that followed, challenges continued to arise. More affluent customers, influenced by Edward and his circle, spread rumors that the food quality had drastically declined. "Farmhand food," they said. "You can't go to that place anymore." Despite this, business only increased. The philosophy implemented by Thomas touched the hearts of the older residents of Riverdale Springs, who saw the Mountain Flavor as a symbol of resistance against the cultural decharacterization the town was experiencing. One afternoon, while Thomas was checking the inventory, Emily called him to the dining room. A young man of approximately 25 was sitting at a corner table, visibly nervous. "Dad, this is Jason. He came to ask for a job." Jason had deep, dark circles under his eyes and trembling hands. His gaze was that of someone carrying an immense weight on his shoulders. I've been out of work for 6 months, sir," he explained with a hesitant voice. "I have experience as a waiter, but nobody will hire me because I had problems with alcohol in the past. I've been clean for a year, but in this town, once you get a bad reputation..." Thomas observed him for a few moments before extending his hand. "Start tomorrow. Emily will show you how we operate here." Jason's face lit up. "You're not going to ask for references, certificates?" "No," Thomas replied simply. "Here we give opportunities, not judgments." That conversation awakened something in Thomas. That night, after closing the restaurant, he met with Emily and Sandra to discuss a new idea. "I want to create a training and employability program for people in vulnerable situations," he explained. "Many of those who today beg on the sidewalks could be working if someone gave them A chance. Emily applauded enthusiastically. We can teach the basics of gastronomy, service, administration. It's an ambitious project, pondered Sandra. You'll need structure, teachers, materials. I have resources, stated Thomas, and more importantly, I have the will. This town needs to remember what community is, what it means to care for one another. In less than a month, the Taste of Opportunity project was up and running. A space adjacent to the restaurant was adapted for practical classes. 12 people in vulnerable situations, including 3 homeless individuals, were selected for the first class. Among the volunteer teachers was Emily, who taught basic cooking techniques, and Eleanor, who shared traditional Missouri recipes. The initiative attracted the attention of local media. The Riverdale Gazette published a full-page article about the project, highlighting Jason's story of overcoming, who now, besides being a waiter, acted as a monitor for the new students. The positive repercussions deeply bothered Edward Mitchell and his circle. During a dinner at his mansion, the businessman gathered some influential friends, including Mayor Paul Newman. That hick is becoming a problem, declared Edward, filling his wine glass. His restaurant has turned into a rehabilitation center for drunks and beggars. Is that what we want for our town? The voters are enchanted with him, commented the mayor, uncomfortable. Polls show that 78% of the population approves of the Mountain Flavors initiatives. Polls! Edward slammed the table. Since when do we care about the opinion of the masses? We need to act before he becomes untouchable. The next day, a health inspection team arrived at the restaurant during lunch hour. The chief inspector, a thin man with a severe expression, announced in a loud voice to all customers, "We've received reports of serious irregularities at this establishment. We need to interrupt operations for a complete inspection." Emily, who was supervising the dining room, quickly approached. "Can we continue serving while you inspect the kitchen? We have a full restaurant." "Impossible," cut off the inspector. "We need all customers to leave immediately." Those present, indignant, began to protest. Among them was Melissa Parker, an independent journalist known for her blog that denounced the political irregularities of Riverdale. "What a coincidence," she commented loudly, while filming the scene with her cell phone. A surprise inspection, precisely at the restaurant that challenged the status quo of the town. "I'll love investigating who made the complaint." The inspector hesitated when he realized he was being filmed. "We're just following orders." Thomas was immediately called to the restaurant. Upon arrival, he found Emily trying to calm the customers while the inspection team began a thorough inspection. Melissa Parker continued filming everything. "Don't worry," Thomas told the customers. "We'll resolve this. Anyone who wants can take their meal home to finish." To the inspector, he maintained the same tranquility. "Do your job. We have nothing to hide." The inspection lasted 4 hours. The inspectors examined every corner, every utensil, every procedure. They frantically made notes on their clipboards, took photographs, collected samples. At the end, the team leader handed Thomas a list of 10 irregularities considered serious and announced, "The establishment is closed until all these issues are resolved. The deadline for compliance is 30 days. As soon as the inspectors left, Thomas, Emily, and Sandra analyzed the list. "This is ridiculous," exclaimed the lawyer. "These supposed irregularities are minimal. Many don't even constitute violations according to current legislation." "It's a setup," agreed Emily. "Much worse restaurants have never received such a rigorous inspection." Thomas remained silent for a few moments, analyzing each item on the list. Finally, he said with determination, "We'll resolve each of these issues, even the absurd ones, and we'll do more than that." The next day, the Mountain Flavor was closed, but far from inactive. A team of engineers, nutritionists, and food safety specialists hired by Thomas evaluated the space and proposed improvements. Meanwhile, Melissa Parker published the inspection footage on her blog, questioning the impartiality of the process. The article quickly went viral, generating a wave of indignation in the community. Hundreds of comments supported Thomas and criticized what they considered political persecution. 1 week after the closure, the Riverdale Gazette published a special report on the case. The journalist had discovered, through documents leaked from City Hall, that the inspection had been requested directly from the mayor's office after a dinner with Edward Mitchell. The revelation caused a scandal in the town. Groups of residents organized a protest in front of City Hall, demanding explanations. Mayor Paul Newman, under pressure, gave a press conference trying to minimize his involvement. Inspection is part of the health department's routine. There was no specific targeting against Mr. Jenkins' establishment. Nobody believed him. Popular support for Thomas grew each day. While the restaurant remained closed, students from the Taste of Opportunity project organized a meal delivery system that operated in front of the establishment, keeping the Mountain Flavors' presence alive in the town's daily life. At his farm, Thomas constantly received visits from supporters and the curious. Many wanted to meet the man who had challenged the established power of Riverdale Springs. On one such occasion, Emily found him sitting on the porch, watching the sunset. "What are you thinking about, Dad?" "About how everything changed so quickly," he replied with a tired smile. "I never wanted to be the center of attention. I just wanted a place where people were treated with dignity." "And you achieved much more than that," affirmed Emily, sitting beside him. "The Mountain Flavor has become a symbol. People are rediscovering the value of community, of solidarity." During the following 3 weeks, the restaurant underwent a complete transformation. Thomas not only corrected the alleged irregularities pointed out by the inspectors, but invested in improvements that exceeded any legal requirement. He installed advanced refrigeration systems, completely renovated the kitchen with state-of-the-art equipment, implemented rigorous hygiene and food safety protocols, and hired specialized consulting in sustainable gastronomy. On the 28th day, after the closure 2 days before the final deadline, Thomas requested a new inspection. The inspection team, this time accompanied by representatives from the district attorney's office and journalists, at Sandra's request, was impressed with the changes. "This is perfect," admitted the chief inspector, embarrassed. "I've never seen an establishment with such high standards in Riverdale Springs." Permission to reopen was granted the same day. The following night, the Mountain Flavor reopened its doors with a big celebration. The waiting line doubled around the block. Among those present were the students from the Taste of Opportunity project, now officially incorporated into the restaurant team. The notable absentee was Edward Mitchell. After the scandal of the targeted inspection, his reputation had suffered a significant blow. Several contracts with the City Hall were cancelled, and an audit was investigating possible irregularities in his companies. 2 weeks after the reopening, Thomas received surprising news. The Mountain Flavor had been selected to receive the State Award for Social Inclusion and Gastronomic Innovation, granted by the Missouri state government to initiatives that combined culinary excellence and social responsibility. The award ceremony, held in Kansas City, was broadcast live to Riverdale Springs, where hundreds of people gathered in the central square to watch. When Thomas took the stage to receive the trophy, accompanied by Emily and Jason, the square erupted in applause. "This award is not mine," he said at the microphone. "It belongs to each person who believed we could make a difference. It's for the students of Taste of Opportunity, who proved they deserve a chance. It's for each customer who continued to support us even when they tried to bring us down." He paused, emotional, before continuing. "A restaurant is not just a place to feed the body. It's a space for gathering, for communion, at the mountain. Flavor, we want to nourish dignity, respect, solidarity as well." Back in Riverdale Springs, Thomas was received as a hero. The town, which before seemed divided between modern and traditional, was beginning to find a new balance. The success of the Mountain Flavor inspired other merchants to value local work and traditions, without renouncing quality and innovation. 6 months after the reopening, business at the restaurant remained intense. Thomas, fulfilling his promise to expand the positive impact, opened 2 new units in the peripheral neighborhoods of the town, maintaining the same inclusive philosophy. Graduates from the Taste of Opportunity program assumed leadership positions in the new establishments. On a Sunday afternoon, after the lunch service closed, Thomas found Emily organizing a new seasonal menu with dishes that used only ingredients produced within a 50-mile radius of the restaurant. "You know, Dad," she said without taking her eyes off the papers, "when I returned from Chicago, I was full of grandiose ideas, wanting to work in starred restaurants, travel the world. I never imagined I would find so much fulfillment here in our town." Thomas smiled. "Life has these surprises. Sometimes we think we need to go far to find what we're looking for, when in reality it's right beside us." At that moment, Jason entered the room, accompanied by a group of 10 people. They were the new students of the project, starting their first day of training. "Excuse me, Mr. Jenkins, can we begin today's class? We're going to teach the basics of customer service." "Of course, Jason. Just let me show them something first." Thomas took them to a frame on the wall where the old sign that was at the entrance of the restaurant when he was humiliated was displayed. Next to it, a photograph from the day of the award ceremony in Kansas City. "Start here," he said to the new students. "This is the story of the Mountain Flavor. It's a story about respect, dignity, and transformation." As he watched Jason begin the class, Thomas felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The one who was expelled for being dirty had become the symbol of the moral and ethical cleansing the town needed. Without raising his voice, he had transformed a humiliation into a movement of dignity that now inspired an entire community. And it was there, among pots, calluses, and genuine smiles, that Thomas found more than success. He found purpose. The true taste of victory wasn't in the awards or recognition, but in the certainty that his actions had touched lives and transformed realities. For a man who had always valued honest work and simplicity, there could be no greater reward. The sun was beginning to set when Thomas stepped onto the restaurant's porch. He contemplated the town he loved so much, now a little more just, a little more human. He smiled, satisfied, knowing that this was just the beginning of a much greater transformation. Dear listeners, we hope that Thomas Jenkins's story has touched your hearts as much as it touched ours. To continue this journey of emotions and reflections on dignity, respect, and social transformation, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories that explore the complexity of life and the power of small, everyday revolutions. Find it here by clicking to your left. If this narrative about how a simple farmer changed an entire town resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Every day we bring unique stories that make us reflect on our values and the impact we can have on others' lives. And you, have you ever experienced a situation of discrimination that you transformed into an opportunity? Share with us in the comments. We're eager to hear your story too.